Changing key within a song, it's a bit of a divisive one. You might feel that it's a beautiful and invigorating way to spruce up the final chorus of a song. Or you might feel, as someone I once knew rather memorably put it, that it's a bit like a last-ditch effort to resuscitate a corpse. In any case, you might be, with all respect to you, you might be thinking about key changes or modulation in a slightly limited way. So we're going to look at a surprisingly subtle and effective way to do it. Now, this came about because for my birthday at the end of last year, I got a very nice present from my mum and dad, which was this mandolin. And when I got it, I did what any self-respecting person of my generation does when they get a mandolin. I learnt Losing My Religion by R.E.M. But where to from there? I mean, I could have learnt Maggie May by Rod Stewart, but I don't like Rod Stewart. So what I did instead was I started playing along to an old favourite album, Rum, Sodomy and the Lash by the Pogues. Incidentally, comment down below if you know where they got that title from, Rum, Sodomy and the Lash. It's quite a good bit of pop trivia. Anyway, I was reminded of something quite cool about the song Dirty Old Town, which I thought might make for an interesting video. So let's run through it. We have the intro, first of all, which goes like this. I've got the chords pre-recorded on the looper here. Hold about. Like so. So what's going on there, I'll just show you the chords on the guitar, is our intro goes from a D chord to a G chord and then back to D. And then we have an E minor and then a B minor. So our intro is pretty indisputably, I would say, in the key of D. That's where our musical centre of gravity is. That's where the melody sits, and all of the chords are taken from the key of D major. Now, when we talk about changing key, it might be that you're imagining something a little bit like this, where we start in D and then lurch upwards like so, usually by a whole tone, in the fashion of 80s power ballads such as I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston or Heaven is a Place on Earth by Belinda Carlisle. Now, I won't hear a damn word against those songs, but subtle it most certainly ain't. But that's not quite what's going on here. Let's take a little bit of a closer look. Right, let's look at that chord sequence a little bit more closely then. So we have D, to G, back to D, E minor, B minor. And then G to start the verse. And here's the thing, we have already changed key when we hit that G to start the verse. It's subtle enough that you might not even notice it because it's not using the same kind of modulation technique that those songs I mentioned earlier do. That is what's known as direct modulation, where we take the melody and the chord sequence and just lurch the whole thing upwards. What's going on here is something called pivot chord modulation. This is where we go from one key to another via a chord that is common to both keys. If you're not sure about what chords belong to keys and so on, I did make a video about writing songs and chord sequences some months ago. Heartily recommend you check it out. But quick recap, from any given major scale, you can build a chord off of each degree of the scale. So within the key of D major, we have the chords D major, E minor, F sharp minor, G major, A major, B minor, and C sharp diminished. So when we go to that G chord at the end of the intro going into the verse, it doesn't strike us as odd because the chord G is within the key of D, and we've heard the G chord being played as part of the intro already. So nothing about it is going to strike us as unusual. We're not going to feel like we've changed key straight away. But we have definitely changed key to G major because the melody settles now on that chord. And we also, as the chord progression progresses, go into one chord that is not in our original key of D major. When we go to the verse, it goes like this. G, to C, back to G. It goes on and then D, E minor. All chords that are now taken from the pool we get from the G major scale. The G major scale gives us the following chords: G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, and F sharp diminished. So you'll notice we are going from chord 1, which is G, to chord 4, which is C. Now the C chord is not in the key of D major. So this kind of confirms that our new centre of gravity is G. This is where we keep returning back to. So we go G, up to chord 4, which is C, chord 5, which is D, and chord 6, which is E minor. So we have pivoted from the key of D to the key of G via the chord of G, because it's in both keys. But then another surprise awaits us when we get to the instrumental section. Okay, so after a couple of verses we go into an instrumental section which goes a little bit like this. And we have changed key again. This time we have moved to the key of C. We're following the same chord sequence as the verse, but we have shifted up to the key of C. So we are starting on a C chord. Then F. Back to C. So it's the exact same sequence intervallically as the verse. We are starting on our new chord 1, which is C, then going up to 4, which is F, back to C, then 5, which is G, and then 6, which is A minor. So we have actually pivoted to this chord of C in the exact same style as we moved from the intro to the verse. We have gone up a fourth. If we think right back to the start, the intro, when we were in the key of D, we moved up to the key of G for the verse, which is moving up a fourth. That is to say, G is the fourth chord of D major. And then, when we go to the instrumental section, we're doing the same thing. We are moving up to the fourth of G, which is C. So you're getting this nice sequence of fourths as we modulate from section to section. It's a bit different when we go back into the verse after the instrumental. We're going back to the key of G for our verse, which is the 5th of C, but it doesn't really matter because the chord of G is obviously in the key of C major. So it's another pivot chord modulation. We're getting back to the verse via a common chord. So there we go, a little bit of pivot chord modulation fun for you there, courtesy of the Pogues. Really hope there was some stuff of interest there to you that might even give you some ideas for your own songs. If so, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you with something else very soon. Cheers.